say that I am losing my patience with this whole thing is going to be an understatement. Really, really, really getting extremely frustrated. I don't know if I can even continue at this point. I really have just lost all patience with this day and with this bloody internet that just dropped offline for the second time the same morning. Driving me up the wall. Trying to muster the willpower to continue at this point. It is just so frustrating that it is now almost 11 o'clock. All I've succeeded in doing is putting in about 4 waypoints into the flight plan thus far. I don't know if I can really honestly continue this at this point. This lousy internet connection. And it's not lousy per se, it seems to be certain times a day where it just fails continuously. And it's very frustrating. And the modem just was freshly rebooted 40 minutes ago, so even that, you can't say that it's been online for too long. I think it might be time for a new modem. Anyways. Trying to muster the willpower to continue. Alright. I'm going to continue setting this up. The next time this stupid thing fails, anything goes wrong, I think I'm just going to give up on this because it really, I'm out of patience with this whole thing. I really think I want to pull the plug on the whole thing right now. Like, you have no idea how frustrating it is to try and do this and have it just fail repeatedly on you. Nothing seems to want to work today. Nothing seems to want to stay functional. All right, we're going to try one more time to try and keep this thing online and keep it going. Jet 504 to VLN. But yeah, I think Roger's is going to be getting an earful from me this afternoon because I cannot deal with this constantly losing internet connection. And I shouldn't have to. For the amount that I pay every bloody month, every day, the amount that I pay for this internet connection, I should not be losing internet access multiple times a day. So I don't know what's going on out there. I'm sorry. I should stop ranting, but it's incredibly frustrating at this point. All right. Okay, so we've got all that programmed in. Let's get our perf and knit stuff going here. So we're supposed to have 76 people, which we can only carry 70 in this airplane. Why is it trying to put 76 in here?
Hi, the security and safety check are all done. Are we good to start boarding?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Let's see here. Fuel loads, the other thing we need to know. Fuel to go all the way there, 11,479. So we just got to set our fuel panel over here. Turn it on. Need over 11,000 pounds. Go over by just a little bit. Alright, we're not going to be able to knit that stuff until that fuel is done because we'll need that correct fuel amount. Set payload, we can copy that actually, 11.5, that's pretty close to what we're going to be at the end. And while we're at it, we'll go ahead and, I guess we got snowy conditions here. We'll set B1 a little bit lower there. Alright. Cruise altitude today, I believe, was 38. I believe I saw there. Yes, 38,000 feet. Or flight level 380, as the case may be. Off to Calgary as an alternate. It says we should go all the way up to 22,000 for Calgary. It seems high for what's a relatively short trip, but anyways. ISA deviation and winds. So ISA deviation, again, in my flight plan, I'm looking over here. I got +9. I got 254 at 34. 254 at 34. And I got +9 for the ISA deviation. Execute that. PNAV setup, again, like always, SimBrief plans by default 0.77 for cruise, so we'll put 0.77 for the cruise, and that's about it. Go to the perf page, put in a flex temp, and we're done with the FMS. And are we still connected? Amazingly, our stream did not drop in that time. Sadly, that is considered now a victory, is when the stream does not drop. All right. So now that we've got everything set up here, let's go ahead and resume my checklist. Wheels 247, good morning. I hope you're having a better morning than me, because I am having a terrible morning so far. But we're trying to get the stream to. I don't want to rant on anybody. It's been extremely frustrating. My internet has dropped out my stream twice. Captain Michael, good morning. My internet has dropped out my stream twice. Microsoft, or Asobo, pushed an update to the simulator this morning, which took a good 50 minutes to download. And then when I started the sim the first time, also, the sim did not work properly, probably because of the fact that the internet connection dropped during the startup. So I am almost out of patience with this morning. I'm going to try this one more time. I'll be honest. If it fails again, I am going to give up on this. I'm not one to usually give up easily, but obviously it's not meant to be if that's the case. So, yeah. All right. Back to my originating check flow. So electric panels, all 3 generators on. IRSs are aligning. Hydraulic shutoff valves are open and guarded. Lights, we should have the nav light on. That should have gone on with the power up. Fuel panel, all switches should be out. Bleeds are set to normal and auto. Panel switches, start panel switches are all deselected. And while I'm over here, I'm going to start the APU right now. Hydraulic test, let's do the hydraulic test really quickly. So we turn on 1, 2, and 3. We should see hydraulic pressure in all 3 systems. We do. Put them back to auto. We should lose all the pressure. Yep, there goes all the pressure. And 3A can go on. Oh, sorry, then return all to auto and 3A off. Nope, this aircraft, they like it 3A off. Okay, that's fine. Alright, so that should be long enough for the valve to open, so start the APU. Pressurization panel, all normal. Lights are out. Air conditioning packs. The APU is coming on, so we're going to put the packs on. Recirc fan goes on as well. Anti-ice. Just need the windshield on to start. Ice detector test. Because it's the first light of the day, we're going to push the ice detector test. We should get the ice message. ADS heat test okay. Alright, very good. Pressing the wrong button still. Emergency lights are going to armed. Fueling should be done by now. Yes, it is. Is it? Hold on, check that. 11,860. Yeah, check those numbers together. Yep, it is done. There we go. Turn that off. We can turn on the seat belts and the no smoking sign. Stall test. Now it says trim to 6, then push to test. So I'm not sure why, but we'll do it. We'll set the trim to 6. Push the stall test. Here are the stall shakers, and you see the continuous light on the ignition panel also comes on during a stall. Clocks are set. That is the correct local time. I can't believe how long it's taken to get this far into this. Yeah, and I'm sure you guys can all relate, especially being simmers. Sometimes sims just do not start the way you want them to, and that button. RA test, 50 feet. Perfect. RA test passed. Love it. Yeah, we've all had those days where we sit down and we want to just go fly the sim, and of course, everything seems to get in the way. Software needs to be updated, the sim needs to be updated, your controls are not configured correctly, and 50 other things, and by the time you've done all those things, 45 minutes has gone by, you're just like, I just don't even want to do it anymore. All the fun and joy has just gone out of it. That has been my morning this morning, so I'm trying to pull myself together here, motivate myself to do this here. 2984 on the meter is what I'm looking for. Because I really do want to demonstrate this. I think that FS2Crew just puts together a fantastic add-on pack for all the airplanes that they've worked with so far. Alright, standby instruments are checked. O2 pressure is within limits. Upper pedestal is all checked and normal. Inlanding gear overheat test.
Gear bay overheat.
And thrust lever quadrant check. Make sure that my controls are here, my flaps and my spoiler levers work. Thrust reversers armed. So in this flow, we arm them before we even start the airplane. Lower pedestal checked. We're going to get the stab trim, mock trim, and yaw damper on. Radar test, so we can turn to test mode. I've never seen anything on the screen come up for test mode. I'm not sure. Is there a... There is a... Okay. Yeah, it should be in test mode, but it doesn't show anything, so... Anywho. Maybe in a future iteration it'll show something. At the end of the flow... let's get this up here again. Originating check.
Stand by.
That triggers the FO to do a few things as well. And then I have to flip to a different page where the actual...
Maintenance status.
Complete left.
Complete right. Gear pins.
Stowed.
Removed. Hydraulic test.
Complete.
Ice detector test.
Complete.
Stall test.
Complete.
Clocks.
1509, set left.
1509. Set right. CVR test.
Complete. Complete.
MLG overheat test.
Complete.
Radar test.
Complete.
Originating check complete.
Alright. Mute that again. Alright. Again, I'm really just following this through because I'm not familiar with this whatsoever, but the FO did some stuff as well. The FA will ask for boarding. Before the pre-start check. Before I do the pre-start check, are you ready
Stand
for the
by.
departure briefing? Are you ready for the departure briefing? Cancel last checklist.
Fuel quantity.
Cancel last checklist. Cancel checklist.
Roger.
Are you ready for the departure briefing?
Go ahead.
Okay. He heard me say it because I had muted it too quickly after I said it. So, all right. Yeah, we got to do a departure briefing here. Let's get those Navigraph charts up here. Oh my god. I feel like this is just taking me a year and a half to get this going. And of course, this is not ready either because the sim didn't restarted. Oh my god. I got it at least saved in my browser. It only takes about a second for it to do that. Let's just add it to the list of things that are just not going well for me today. Give it any second now. It's going to come here. Come on. I did it. What are you waiting for? There we go. Jeez. Jeez. I'm also... I have to be honest, as soon as I saw a sim update being pushed, it made me a little hesitant about streaming. Because every time a sim update pushes, stuff gets broken, and I really hate the idea of streaming right after a sim update because I don't know what's broken. Although I am going to probably learn the hard way. Alright, let's see here. In the event of any abnormality or the prompt taxi will stop. This will be a left seat takeoff malfunction prior to the V1 of 126. I'll call stop or go. If the call is stop, I'll close the thrust levers. Apply maximum reverse. Sorry. I'll close the thrust levers, apply maximum brake. Apply maximum reverse and stop on the runway. I'll set the parking brake. Call for any required memory items to QRH checklists. Let's see here. The emergency turn out of 18 Winnipeg is just going to be runway heading straight ahead. One stop.
Hi guys, here's the load sheet for you.
QRH checklists. Thank you.
No problem. Have a safe flight.
Alright, so we're going to taxi out from the gate here in Winnipeg. Now that we finally sort of got ourselves organized here. We're going to taxi out Echo, Foxtrot, and Tango to hold short off runway 18. It's going to be a full leg departure on runway 18 today on the Duxus 1 departure. Late 10-320, 1st of January 2022. 100 miles safe, 3,800 feet for use by GNSS aircraft. That's fine. We do have GNSS. Jet aircrafts only. And climb track 185 to FO2, and then a climbing left turn. Let's just see here, FO2. Climbing left turn track 173 to Duxus, then climb 172 to Pepka. Then for vectors to assign route, climb to and maintain 4,000. So let's get that set in there. I don't have any of this. I don't, yeah. I'm not a big fan yet of this SOP here, just because there's a lot of kind of gaps in it. It kind of walks you through the system setup, but it doesn't sort of wander you through setting up the FMS. The guidance panel doesn't kind of give you any directive on when you should be planning on doing that. So I feel like the SOP is kind of incomplete. It covers most of the interactions you need to make with the FO, but what is it? 186. It covers most of the interactions you need to make with the FO, but I do find that, like, in terms of sort of spelling out like where in the SOP flow you would normally try to do, like, okay, here's when you would set up the FMS, here's when you would set up the guidance panel, that sort of stuff is omitted. So if you kind of go to it without looking, like yesterday I learned the hard way that in the pre-start check, which I was about to call for, it asks if you've done the departure briefing, but at no point does it say, hey, do the departure briefing. So you get to that point and you're like, oh, no, we didn't do the departure briefing, and then the only thing you can say is yes, and he says, are you sure? So Travis said he's going to go update his sim now. Yeah, go do it now. And probably by the time I'm done this stream, your update will be done. Yeah. The only other thing I was going to look at as well was also noise abatement, because I'm unfamiliar with the noise abatement here in Winnipeg, but usually there's like minimum turn heights associated with most of the noise abatement. Runway 18, RNAV, do not commence any assigned turn until Duxus. Yeah, okay, so there you go. So we have to reach Duxus first before we do our first assigned turn. There you go. That's why we read these things. Terrain around... Oh, I should have left that up. It's thinking about it. Terrain around Winnipeg is... Oh, for crying out loud, I was just in here. Let's see here. MSA of 2,900 feet. The weather looks like a beautiful VFR day. Operational... just learning the Aerosoft CRJ FS2Crew. That's about it. Otherwise, no MELs, no TAMPs. All right. And it's very weird how the sound drops off there. And the sim seems to freeze. That's the second time I noticed it did that. Yeah, that also is a little disconcerting, and I hope that does not a sign of what's going to happen during our stream here. All right, let's go ahead and close up, because I think we're just about ready to go here. So we'll close up the door, we'll disconnect the GPU, and we'll call for the pre-start check. One thing that's really useful about this window with FS2Crew is that you can see here what it thinks you're saying when you have the mic unmuted. Pre-start check.
Stand by.
And it also allows you to kind of see what it's doing. Now I turned on the HTTPS server, which means I should now probably see this information. There we go. See, again, the settings before defaulted.
Fuel quantity.
Released with 11,000 on board.
11815 pounds. Confirmed. Cabin signs.
On.
Pressurization.
I honestly have no idea what the field elevation is in Lethbridge. Let's see if Navigraph will tell me real quick here. Lethbridge, 3,049. So we're gonna have to crank this up a fair bit here. It is kind of nice to have this on the screen, and it is, especially when you're learning, it's nice to have this sort of checklist assist here that you can see. But I look forward to very quickly learning these challenge and responses and getting rid of that, because again, to me, it brings the immersion. The whole point is to interact by voice, and that's how you learn an SOP. Is you learn it. Set.
Altimeters.
2984 set. 2984 set left and center. 2984 set left and center. 2984 set left and center. 2984 set left and center.
2984 set right and cross-checked. Flight instruments.
Autopilot set my side. 4,000 in the pre-select. Heading set for 186. Set left. Set left. Set left.
Set right. Anti-skid test.
Complete.
Oxygen flow.
Checked left.
Checked right. FMS.
Verified.
Radios.
Set left. Set left.
Set right. Takeoff brief.
Complete.
Are you positive? Pre-start check complete.
I forgot to say any questions, so my bad. All right, it's a little exasperating when you're learning it, but it becomes smoother the better you come at it. But I do love this one feature, which is of course showing you what you've actually written, or what it thinks you've said, so that you can see if it's where it's having problems detecting your voice. All right, I think we got everything just about ready to go here, so we will be ready in a minute.
Roger.
Here comes the tug for Pushback Express. While I'm at it here, of course, my CXA cars.
Roger. Release the parking brakes, please.
Really? My CXA cars also does not want to work. I am just so ready to give up on this whole thing today. For some reason, it did not have any aircraft. All right. Sorry guys, just get my CXA cars up and running here. Because I had it, and then of course, I had to restart the sim. There we go. Alright. We're pretty much here at departure time.
Hey guys, all packs are on board. Are we cleared to close?
Cleared to close.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board
Thanks.
today.
Let me know
As
if you need
locate your
anything.
assigned seats, please place your smaller items under the seat in front of you to provide more room for larger items in our overhead
Engine start
compartments.
check.
If you need assistance,
APU.
contact a flight attendant. If you are unable to accommodate any
Roger.
item in the
Before I do
cabin,
this,
please
fuel
bring it to the
pumps
boarding
on.
door and we will check it for you.
Hydraulic 3A
Also, review the safety instruction card in your seat pocket.
Beacon on.
If you are seated at an exit seat, also
Sure,
review the
verify
exit
all
seating
doors
criteria.
And for some reason, we have the back doors open. On.
Takeoff data set 47 1,500 pounds. V speeds are V1 126 VR 133 V2 143 VFTO 196 flaps 8 set right.
Set left. Set left.
Trims engaged and centered. Point 6 seatbelt and shoulder harness.
Check left.
Checked right. Hydraulic pumps.
Auto and on.
Beacon.
On.
Nose wheel steering.
Off.
Doors.
Closed.
Engine start check complete.
We are ready for pushback and engine start. We are ready for pushback and engine start. I think you already figured that I said that. Brakes released. Come on. Brakes are released. Brakes released. For crying out loud. Oh my god! I'm really hating this day. Pushback Express seems to have completely died here. So let's restart it one more time. Somehow it it killed itself. While I was typing, I was talking, and I pressed the C key once, and that screwed it all up. We are ready for pushback and engine start.
Roger. Release the parking brakes, please.
Brakes released. Brakes are released. Brakes are released. Brakes are released. Oh, because the shocks are still on. Oh my god. Brakes are released.
Pushing back.
I'm just having a day. Alright, go. Come on, Pushback Express, you can do this. Why are you not doing it? Why are you not doing it? I'm going to lose my stuff on this guy here. There. I'm just doing it.
You are clear behind, and you can start your engines at your discretion.
Start engine 1.
Starting engine 1.
So the FO does the engine start all by himself. He triggers the starter. He watches for 20%. He'll bring the fuel up. I don't do anything at this point. Stop, pushback.
Pushback complete. Set parking brakes, please.
Brakes are set.
Roger. Okay, the tow bar is disconnected and the equipment is clear. We will see you on the left side with the pin.
You are clear to disconnect and go to hand signals.
Thanks. Have a good flight. See you later.
See, the
Engine
trouble,
1 start complete.
it's really not complete when it's only at 37%, buddy. Like, FS2Crew is good when it works, but especially when you're first starting out with a new version, there tends to be a lot of kind of issues, things we have to work out. And they're beginning to suffer a little bit. Start engine 2. Start engine 2.
Starting engine 2.
The trouble with FS2Crew is that it's becoming a bit more like the Aerosoft Copilot, where the scripting is becoming a little bit more linear, and it's becoming a little bit harder to sort of jump somewhere different if things are not quite done in the right order. And especially with Pushback Express, the way it kind of locks in the tug and everything, if things are not done in the right way, Pushback Express tends to get lost too. I found that. I don't think that's really the fault of FS2Crew. I tend to think that's more the fault of the way Asobo has just written their simulator, and the way FS2Crew is kind of forced to interact with it through the API. There's not
Engine
a lot.
2 start complete.
It's not really complete. It's you're way too fast to make that announcement. I can't believe it's almost 11:30. Finally have this. Alright. Okay, so we've got the engine start complete to sequence on to the after start. I turn off the APU, and then the most important thing, and it's emphasized here, is press the flight control synoptic button, because that triggers the FO's after start flows. Rudder test. their flight control check. Pre-taxi check.
APU.
Off. Set.
Anti-ice. Set. Electrics.
Checked.
Nose wheel steering.
Armed.
Flaps. Flaps 8. Set.
Flaps 8 confirmed.
Flight controls.
Check left.
Checked right. Pre-taxi check complete.
Oh my god, it only took me an hour and 20 minutes. No, an hour and 50 minutes. But we're ready to depart the gate. Select taxi light on. Wow. Just wow. It's been a morning. I hope that background noise is not too loud. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit because I feel like I'm just looking at the audio levels. It looks like the noise of the airplane's a little bit loud for you guys. And I have noticed that in the past that some of them it sometimes overrides me a little bit to the point where like I can barely hear what's going on. And you can't hear my commentary over it. So clear left.
Clear right.
All right, I'm going to continue muting this every single time I need to because, unfortunately, it's the one thing about FS2Crew, of course, being voice activated is that's always listening, and it's easy for it to kind of hear what it wants to hear and trigger things. Winnipeg traffic, Canadian Express 472 is just departing the main apron at Winnipeg, taxiing for runway 18 departure, Winnipeg. So yeah, but that's why like you have a hotkey, and I set up the hotkey. It's one of the only hotkeys I set up for FS2Crew, but I always set up a hard mute key. That way, one button press, I can quickly turn on and off the voice detection, and I don't need to worry about it listening to things that I don't want to listen to. It's okay, you've been able to hear my frustration just fine. Oh my god. Just one of those days. I am at the end of my rope. I really am. One more thing goes wrong, I think I'm just gonna throw the computer through the window and be done with it because it's so frustrating trying to get this done sometimes. And it's not you know, this is supposed to be a hobby. It's supposed to be relaxing. It's supposed to be enjoyable. I impose a little bit of stress on myself by live streaming. Obviously, that you know, you want things to go well. You want to kind of give people a good impression when you're doing live streaming. This has been anything but today. But on the other hand, like at the same time, like I think it's perfectly kind of typical. It just demonstrates exactly how frustrating simming can be when things do not go well, and sometimes I feel like developers don't get that part. And I think they do because they probably get their frustration throughout the development process. But I feel like sometimes you get pushback from a developer because something's not working right. And it's like, it's so frustrating to have spent money on these beautiful software products and not be able to use them. Whether because there's some kind of bug, whether it's because there's perhaps an error in the understanding of the procedures or something, or just having one of those things where everything's incompatible. And I have to say that the developers in Microsoft, in the flight simulator community, have gotten better at recognizing that more and more people are using multiple add-ons in combination with one another. And so, you know, in the past, like there was a lot of kind of finger pointing. Well, if my add-on doesn't work, it must be some other add-on because it works when I use it by myself. It's like, yeah, but we want to use these add-ons together. And companies have been getting better at that. Aerosoft integrated GSX into their Airbus 320 family so that you know, when the fuel truck showed up, it would fuel and it would stay just long enough to fuel the airplane. It would fuel the airplane itself. So there's lots of things like that where there's more cross-integration between multiple developers, which is great to see, and I hope that's going to be more of the future. I think this platform right now, people are just trying to learn this platform. The developers are just trying to learn this platform and figure it out. Not a whole lot of cross-integration yet, but it's getting there actually, and you know, it does. There are some things like the fact that the fly-by-wire A320, you can download not just METARs, but actual ATISs via ACARs. VATSIM ATISs via ACARs. So if there's a VATSIM controller that has an ATIS online, you can request his text through the MCDU and get it by text without even opening up your vPilot window. Again, just one more thing to sort of not break the immersion, which is really kind of nice. All right, ready. Time to do more stuff. Before takeoff, check to the line.
Flight attendants, take your seat for departure, please. Cabin has been notified. Crossflow manual. Thrust reversers armed. Takeoff data set for runway 18. RNAV first fix identified. 4,000 feet pre-selected.
Set.
Fuel, fuel confirmed. Takeoff config.
Checked.
Checked. For takeoff, check to the line complete.
Winnipeg traffic and Express 472 departing runway 18. Duxus 1 departure westbound. Before takeoff, check below the line.
Anti-ice.
Off. Set.
Gas.
Checked.
Checked. For takeoff, check below the line complete.
Just going to minimize this guy out of the way. Slowly getting things a little bit more organized. And then yesterday really didn't transition well to the climb check, so let's see if we can get it to work a little better today. Sort of got stuck into thinking we were going to a parking check after I took off, so. Get my own lights here. Runway heading check.
Check.
Set thrust.
Thrust set. knots.
Check.
V1. Rotate. Positive rate.
Gear up.
Gear up.
Speed mode, heading mode. Speed mode, nav mode. Select autopilot on.
Autopilot on.
Flaps 8, autopilot on.
Flaps 8.
Flaps 1.
Flaps 1.
Flaps up. Alright, we passed Duxus yet? Not yet. Flap 0. Flaps up. Why he doesn't want to put the flaps up?
Roger.
Yeah, see it. And it transitioned better than the last time, but it still is not working all that well. I'm a little disappointed because in the past it's worked very well. Set flight level 380. Seems like he's doing that okay, which is good. Past Duxus now, so we can go direct to Lib B. Confirm. Confirm?
Confirmed.
Nap mode. And nap mode. Well, it was a little frustrating. And it worked a little better than last time. Last time he didn't even put the gear up when I commanded him to. So obviously I need to still kind of review this. I'm learning this. It's getting better, but he doesn't seem to recognize the word speed mode, heading mode at all. It's supposed to say climb sequence at 1,000 feet. Climb sequence. You do not manually command the F mode to retract each notch of flaps. Okay. But then over here it's prompted me to do that. So, which is it, guys? There's some disconnects here. I'm gonna have to play with this and practice this a little bit more before I decide if the problems here are mine or if they're FS2Crew's. Yeah, and actually it does have a note here. If for some reason you ever get stuck in climb sequence, most likely due to having hardware assigned to your flaps, click the down icon. Let's get this over here. On the FS2Crew main panel to manually advance to the next level. Alright. So let's see if I can't get this to... Yeah. See if I can get his after takeoff flow. Now he's doing all the things he's supposed to do.
After takeoff check.
Alright, so he's going to silently make sure that everything is done in the after takeoff check. We're well through 10,000, so let's go ahead and get lights off. Alright, seatbelts off, so a little bit of a struggle. Travis says, yeah, it'd be nicer if it was a little smarter so you wouldn't need to use an exact phrase. It has been in the past, it has been a little bit smarter, and I think maybe that will come with a little bit of practice. What they have done in the past is they've usually often made like multiple versions of the same phrase. So I haven't seen it so much in this aircraft, but in the 320 there was a lot of cases where there were multiple phrases that would allow you to do the same thing. So like for the altimeter you could say set, or you could say set inject, or you could say 2984 set. Multiple variations of the same thing, but part of the problem with trying to program FS2Crew, and this is the problem they always face, is trying to get FS2Crew to recognize certain phrases and also be able to use them successfully only at certain times and not have them be repeated. The trouble with a lot of SOPs in an airline is a lot of phrases are often repeated at different phases of flight. A lot of things are very similar. Yeah, I'm going to minimize that now. So trying to kind of make it so that at each phase of flight, the phraseology is distinctive so that FS2Crew knows you're specifically saying the phrase for this part of the flight and not for another part of the flight is also a little bit of a challenge with kind of scripting this. So I do feel for what they've had to do. I've seen that in quite a few of the other FS2Crew products where there's certain phrases that are used a certain way that are perhaps a little bit unorthodox, maybe not quite the way the SOPs are written, in order to get a very unique word combination that allows the FS2Crew to really recognize where you are. Now this, apparently in this SOP we don't even say transition or anything, we just do it silently. I hope that they maybe come out with a second set of SOPs, because that's another thing that they did with the 737, was they had not two but three different sets of SOPs that you could use, depending on which airline you kind of want to simulate. The 737 especially being such a widely used aircraft in so many different airlines. There's a lot of different variations in the SOP, so it's kind of neat that they had that. I hope that maybe they'll consider that with the CRJ as well, because a lot of stuff here feels a little bit unorthodox, and again, they're modeling one specific airline's SOPs, and we're not necessarily flying for that airline. I don't know which airline they picked, and we're not always necessarily flying for those airlines, so it's a little bit difficult to try and sort of make it conform to everybody's way of operating. I don't like some of the stuff that they do in this SOP. I don't like the fact that we don't verbalize the transition. I don't like the number of silent checklists that kind of happen, so there's certain things I don't like, but yeah, again, it's a bit of a struggle for a company like FS2Crew where they're trying to just use voice detection, because voice detection and voice communication is all about context. It's all about the message. Half the time is implied by when you say something and what the situation is around where you say something. So it's really challenging for a company to just look at just words alone without context and say, how do we make those words relate to an action without knowing the context. When you have a conversation, when we're talking about this, you guys are understanding the words I'm using a little bit more because of the context of the conversation. Someone who jumps right into the middle of this conversation, who just tunes into the Twitch stream right now, is going to have a hard time understanding why I'm talking about words and language and voice detection unless they understand the context of what we were talking about. So context is everything. Voice detection is not easy, you know, and ask anybody who's involved with AI. You know, in theory, you know, we have computers that are powerful enough for AI, but so much of how we communicate as human beings, especially verbally, is based on experience, is based on social cues, and trying to train a computer to use that experience and use those social cues that we have as human beings been absorbing for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. We've been absorbing these social cues constantly without you know, a break, really. Like, we are right from the time we're born, we start absorbing social cues. You know, trying to create computers to simulate all of that knowledge that has been gleaned by human beings since they first gathered their first breath outside the womb it's a challenge. It's a lot more information than we ever give ourselves credit for, that we take in on a daily basis, and our brain screens out a lot of it that we don't think we need. But yeah, trying to take in all that information and decide what's important, what's not. It's easy with decades of practice. It's not easy for a computer to necessarily do that and say what's relevant, what's irrelevant to my current operation. Just turn up the range on that so we can see where we are, how we're doing here. So I do feel a lot for FS2Crew. I feel like this is a little bit rough around the edges right now. I think it'll probably get a little better with a little bit of practice. One thing I noticed as well when I was talking to FS2Crew there, it didn't seem to like if I tried to talk slowly and clearly. It seemed to like it better the faster I talked. If I talked really fast, it seemed to pick it up. Like when I was supposed to say set left, if I said set left, and I kind of enunciated each word, it only picked up the first word. It picked up set, and never seemed to pick up left. So I had to say it really quickly, set left, for it to kind of pick up on that, which I thought was really odd. I would think that voice detection would work better if you're going a little slower, if you're talking a little slower, trying to speak a little more clearly. But in this case, it didn't seem to work that well. But that's one of the genius things about the way FS2Crew is set up here, with the fact that it does have the speech recognition window right here. And that's something that was not featured in previous versions of the software, but it is featured now, and I like it so much. The fact that you can see what it thinks you said, and you can see why it's not responding. You're supposed to say set left, and it only thinks you said set. So, okay, try again, set left, faster, 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 until it finally recognizes what you're doing. So, that speech interaction window there is fantastic. I really like that. I found that to be really useful when I'm trying to get it to recognize something I'm saying and I'm not recognizing it. So I find that is very useful. I don't know if I always like this interface. I like it a lot more in the sim. The coloring and the I wish it would default to something else, to what you had left. You know, the coloring and everything of the buttons here is a lot nicer. Yeah, Cortana. I've never used Cortana, honestly. Never used it. Anything from Microsoft immediately makes me suspicious. He said as he flew Microsoft Flight Simulator, but any software from Microsoft makes me immediately suspicious. So I've avoided Bing for the most part, and I avoid Cortana like the plague. I don't like the idea of a voice assistant on my desktop. It's I find it very obtrusive. You know, I guess I'm very old-fashioned. I look at my computer as my computer. It's not Microsoft's computer. It's my computer. What I keep on my computer is my business, and how I find it is my business. And I don't need Cortana searching my computer, indexing my computer, and sending the information about what's on my computer to Microsoft. It's unnecessary. None of that information is even relevant to them. So yeah, I'm not a big believer in voice assistants. Again, for the very same reason that we're going to get Mach 7.4 here in transition. For the very same reason that it's not even necessarily that I don't believe in the quality of the voice assistants. It's that most of the time that information is being sent to somewhere else and archived forever. Like Google just takes your voice commands and archives them forever. Amazon, Microsoft, they just take those and they archive them forever. And if you go back and manually delete them, fine. But if you don't think about manually deleting them, then these things are just stored on there. And that's the part that really bugs me, is this whole offloading the processing to other computers that I don't have control over. That's what really, that's the part about a lot of the voice assistants that really frustrates me, worries me, is that a lot of that information is being offloaded. And that's why I really don't believe in storing a lot of stuff on the cloud. I believe in storing stuff on my own computer. I don't believe in storing stuff on the cloud. I have my own computer where I keep my documents, I keep my files. I don't like them in the cloud because, again, you're giving up all your control at that point. Maybe it's a bit of a control freak thing, but a lot of these companies have proven themselves time and time again that they are not trustworthy. Whether it's because they're looking through your files, whether it's because they're not securing their systems enough, multiple reasons, but there are many reasons why I have very little faith in technology companies to protect your data, to respect the privacy of your own data. Very little confidence in companies to do that. So went to Mach 7.6 again, and now Mach 7.4. There is an option to reject them from sharing the data, but again, and yet you say that, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist here because I think I'm going to, but that's exactly it, and you just hit the nail right there on the head. Whether or not they actually respect your request to reject sharing that data, analyzing that data, is a whole nother story. And again, time and time again, many of these companies have proven that they do not respect their users. They do not respect their users' choices to not share their data. This is one of the few things that I do like about Apple. I'm not a big fan of Apple because I don't think they write very good software. It's great when it works until it doesn't work, and then there's no way to troubleshoot it except take it to a technician and pay $1,000 to have someone figure it out for you. It's great when it works, but often it doesn't. They do have one of the stronger privacy policies. They do have a bit more of a company culture towards keeping their users' data private, and that I appreciate, I respect, and it almost makes me want to buy their products if I didn't feel like their products were overpriced, underperforming, and running on really poorly written operating systems. I'm sorry, I've used plenty of iPads in the past, and that operating system does not impress me in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, it comes down to a question of how much faith you put in these technology companies, and I don't put a lot of faith in them anymore. A lot of them are companies that are searching for revenue and searching for problems that trying to fix problems that don't exist. One of the biggest ones I think of is Uber Eats, which I've really grown to resent now. I liked the idea at first. It seemed like a really good idea at first. It seemed really slick and neat, but at the end of the day, it was trying to fix a problem that didn't exist. Restaurants had delivery long before Uber Eats existed. Decades before Uber Eats existed, restaurants had delivery. And you know what? When the restaurants managed their own delivery, it worked, and it worked really well. The second Uber Eats came in and tried to make it convenient with this slick, shiny little app that everyone can play with on their phone, the quality went downhill because they take a lot of money and they provide almost zero service for that money. They are just a go-between, and they take an incredible amount of money to be a go-between, first of all. And the second thing is it's not a very efficient system, because when you're dealing with Uber Eats, generally you're dealing with one delivery at a time. You're not dealing with multiple deliveries at a time. You look at a traditional pizza store when they would do delivery, they'd get a bunch of orders, they'd make them all. The delivery guy would drive back to the store. He'd pick up 3 or 4 orders, and he'd look at the addresses and figure the most efficient way to drive around town and deliver them, and you get multiple deliveries in one go. Most of the time with Uber Eats, it's one driver delivering one thing. That's why the delivery charge is $6, $7, $8. And then there's the lack of any accountability in Uber, which is just the part that is the most frustrating to deal with, and why I don't use them anymore. I used them for a while, and I've sworn off all of these food delivery apps, and the reason is no accountability. They don't deliver something is not included in your order. Guess what? They give you a refund, but that doesn't help you if you're at home and you're hungry. Oh, well, you know, here's your fries, but we forgot your hamburger. And don't say that something like that won't happen, because I ordered that. Well, I ordered once, and I got the sides, and I did not get the hamburger. And when you don't get, yes, they refund the money, but then if you want to actually go and order that food because you're hungry and I need to eat food, they're going to charge you the delivery fee a second time for them to fix their mistake. At the end of the day, there's so little accountability, so little, and the number of delivery mistakes now has gone up so high. Like at the beginning it wasn't so bad, but now it seems like every single time, Winnipeg Center's here. Now it seems like every single time you order from Uber, almost something's always missing. So it's gotten to the point where they were trying to fix a problem that didn't really exist. Delivery was great, and when you order directly from the restaurants A got a bigger cut of the revenue, the drivers got a bigger cut of the revenue, because there wasn't an intermediary third party, and there was more accountability. When you're ordering directly from the restaurant, if you're not happy and you call them back, they will send that same delivery driver out there to fix the problem most of the time. They will either send you the right order, or they'll find some way to make it right. But with Uber, like I said, there's no accountability. Nobody cares. There's never a human being to talk to. You call the driver's like, I delivered the package I got. And that's it. And that's all they care about. There's nobody actually works at Uber to actually answer your questions. And eventually they do refund your money. But the point is not the refunding of the money. The point is that you're still hungry. You still need the food that they didn't deliver. And now you have to either order a second time and pay the delivery charge a second time, or go hungry. It was a solution searching for a problem that didn't exist. Wow, he's quiet. But then again, I had a guy yesterday on VATSIM that was so loud I had to turn this volume way down to hear him. So.
Last station calling, say call sign.
There we go.
KLM 282.
That's pretty reasonable.
KLM 282, Winnipeg Center, good afternoon, squawk 0674.
I'm sorry, I probably ranted on long enough about
Squawk
Uber.
6764,
KLM 282, squawk 0674.
She's trying to climb.
06.
She's really struggling to reach 380, isn't she? I might even roll it back just a little bit more. Nate Power Gaining asked if I got LDF number 3. Winnipeg Center, good day. Canadian Express 472 with you, 378, about to level 380.
KLM 282 Heavy, your identified flight level 330, welcome break, Canadian Express 472, squawk 0675. Squawk 0645.
Squawk 0645, Canadian Express 472. So there it is, 0645 is in the box, and alt capture. Come on, you can do it, plane. Just a little bit more now. She really did not want to do that last little climb to 380 there. She really was just struggling. But we made it.
Canadian Express 472, your identified flight level 380, welcome.
Thank you. Just got your updates done. Yeah, in the time it took me to depart and get to cruise, and you got your updates done. Oh, yeah, that was a big update. Yeah, so NATO Power Gaming says, did I get LDF number 3? No, Nate, I did not. Please resend it. Honestly, what are the people doing up there in load? Load is just always waiting for load. Always. It's always their fault. Well, at least you can play with your sim. Yeah. Do I recommend this Aerosoft CRJ for FS2Crew? I'm on the fence about it right now. I want to, But I feel like it's just, it's got some rough edges that need to be worked out. I feel like, and maybe it's just me learning the script as well, and maybe after I've had a couple of weeks with it, use it a dozen times or so, and I've learned the script quite well, I'll feel a little more comfortable with it. I'll find out what works, what doesn't. Maybe I'll be able to recommend it, but I just feel like right now, I feel like it's a little bit rough. I feel like some of the stuff is not working as well as it should.
Good afternoon, control lot 4234, Rocky's Crest to destination, access type and the route, and we are ready to line up runway 31.
Lot 4234, Winnipeg Center, you're cleared to Chicago via the Regina 2 departure, then flight planned route, depart runway 31, squawk 0633.
Just gonna try not to talk over Tim too much.
Clear to destination at the flight plan route, squawk departure from runway 21 and squawk 0633, lot 4234.
Lot 4234, exact is correct. The Regina winds 280 at 21, gusting 28. Calling airborne, clear for takeoff from 931.
Clear for takeoff from 31 and we call airborne, lot 4234.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I'm going to probably reserve my judgment on this FS2Crew for a little bit longer. I want to like it. I've been wanting to use it for a long time. It has made a few things go a little faster, a little easier. I feel like today is not the day to make judgments. I'm so frustrated going into this today with all the stuff that happened trying to get this flight up and running that I don't think that even a small little difficulty with the software is being magnified in my brain because I'm so close to being frustrated, giving up on this flight. So I think at the end of the day, do I recommend it yet? I don't recommend it yet. I think it's going to be good. That's another thing I'll say about FS2Crew as well, is that they are constantly pushing software updates. They don't just throw the software out there and then run away from it. They're constantly updating it, adding improvements, tweaking things, fixing bugs. You know, you'll generally get at least an update once a month for most of their software. The other thing I'll say about FS2Crew as well is that they are fantastic when it does come to support. If you have issues with their product, and they say it at the end of their manuals usually, I don't think they say it at the end of this one, but they've said at the end of most of their manuals, don't suffer in silence. If you need support, reach out. They will gladly help. They're pretty active in the, they have their official forums, I believe, are in the VATSIM forums. They're pretty active in there. They'll usually within a day, they'll get back to you with any issues and they'll try to help you resolve your issues. If it's an issue other people have seen and you can find by searching, okay, they might not always answer everything, but yeah, they are generally very good about updating software and keeping up with the community as well, supporting people who do pay for their products. So I feel like, yeah, I feel like right now it's a little bit rough around the edges. That conflict between what it says to do after takeoff here in the manual and what it says on screen. I have to look at both of those. I have to try both of them and see which one works. I was trying to follow on screen, so I wasn't looking down the manual while I was departing, and that really didn't work well. So I'm going to try it the other way. Yeah, it really did not like me to, it really did not like my speed mode heading mode command. And the funny thing was that, like, I looked in the screen here, and it said speed mode heading mode. Like, it recognized that I said it, but nothing happened. It didn't do anything. There was no reaction. It didn't push any buttons on the autopilot panel for me. It did nothing. And this, after takeoff, is the most hectic time in the CRJ. It's the time when you need your FO the most to be doing stuff that you can construct quickly, correctly right after takeoff. There's so much happening between setting climb power, getting the autopilot on, changing to speed mode and either heading mode or nav mode, whatever you've got to do to establish the aircraft in its climb, on course, accelerating, retracting the flaps. All that stuff's got to happen in a timely fashion. And the whole point of me getting this FO in the CRJ was to help that stuff happen. And it didn't happen today. So is that an error I made? Possibly. Absolutely. I'll acknowledge I may have not interacted correctly with the software. I had read the notes before, but
Not 4234 after takeoff passing.
so much going on. I've got some of the notes there, so I'm going to have to practice this. I'm going to have to use it a couple times. And that's the thing, like, airline SOPs are not something you learn in a day either. When you're dealing with airline SOPs, that's something that you spend a month studying, immersing yourself in to learn it before you ever get in the simulator and actually do it in the simulator. But as a new pilot, when you get to a new company, one of the first things you do is you grab the aircraft manuals, you grab the SOPs. You start reading the aircraft manuals, you start reading through the limitations, start learning the systems, but then at the same time, not at the same time, but usually like on the same day, like you spend a couple hours immersing yourselves in limitations and systems, learning the aircraft, but then you also spend a couple hours a day just going through the SOPs and just reading them and reading them and reading them again and again and again and again and again until you learn them, until you know them cold, that you can do them without ever reading them. And most of the time it takes a couple of weeks to a month or more to learn airline SOPs. So I got these yesterday. I started learning these yesterday. I think I'm doing pretty good for these. Having learned them yesterday. Not going well, but that's just the way it is. Like, I wanted to also get out here and just sort of just have fun with it and try it, and again, I think that part of me is just very frustrated over the whole situation this morning, over trying to get the sim up and running, trying to get my stream up and running, and having it seem like everything get in my way. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to like this or not, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to persist with it for a few more flights before I really kind of render a decision of whether or not I'm happy with it. I was not happy with, Pushback Express at the beginning either, when I first started using it. Two reasons why I didn't like it in the beginning. The first was that the first reason why I really did not like it was, in the beginning, it was button control only. They didn't have the voice detection system working and debugged and everything and set up to work in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So at the beginning, it was button push only, and I'm just not a big fan of that. I mean, for that, I might as well just do it all myself. To me, the whole value that FS2Crew adds to anything in the simulator is voice activation, so that I can interact with the simulator in a natural way. When I'm a pilot, I normally interact with other elements of the flight, usually by voice communication, whether it be ATC, whether it be the first officer, the cabin crew, whatever. I interact with those people through voice communication. So that's huge. Without that, I mean, button pushing was just not doing it for me, I'm afraid. The other thing, and the other reason why I didn't like the Pushback Express in the beginning, and this was not a comment on them, it was a comment on me, was that there was nothing really worth pushing back. I was mostly flying GA aircraft around the sim because the airliners sucked. They just sucked. They were default airliners. I can't even fly them. I can't even deal with them. They're just so bad. So now that we have some real airplanes, some real airliners in the sim, the CRJ, the fly-by-wire 320, airliners that I feel are realistic enough that you can fly them, now Pushback Express is also a much more useful tool. Now, I want to try something here. One coffee, please. One coffee, please. No, doesn't like that. There's usually a way. I don't know how to do it in this aircraft. We'll figure it out. Is there? Oh, there's a chime. Aha! Aha! Or a call button.
Hi, it's Andy at L1. How can I help you?
One coffee, please.
Okay, I'll bring the drinks up in a minute.
She does not sound happy. I'm getting spit in that coffee for sure.
Hi guys, here are the drinks.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, at least that works. She did not seem happy about that call though. I'll bring that up in a minute. I'm still getting spit in that coffee. Alright, I'm just going to adjust this camera here for a second because I feel like it's just not quite where I want it to be here. Just so it's a little bit more centered on where I normally sit in the in my desk here. Anyways. Okay, so that works.
Andy at L1. How can I help you?
I will keep you updated. Well, I have to unmute it. I will keep you updated. I will keep you in the loop. Nope, doesn't do anything. There's a few more commands here at the bottom. I was trying one of them, but I guess it doesn't do anything. Anyways, I got myself some coffee. It's not bad. It adds an interesting level of immersion. It you know, in cruise is not very much. What would be interesting is if you could talk to this guy. If you could go over those normal kind of conversations you have in the flight deck. That would be a little more interesting. But yeah, the real value of FS2Crew is when you're kind of during the departure process, during the arrival process. Cruise, there's not much value to it really at the end of the day. It's kind of cute to have those little gimmicks. Bring me a cup of coffee, grab me a meal. That's cute. But you know, at the end of the day, that's just a gimmick. It is the ability to control the airplane using your voice. Ask the first officer to put down the gear, the flaps, you know, select autopilot modes, that sort of thing. And there's a whole bunch of stuff here. Set heading this, set altitude this, set misapproach altitude, set flight level blank, set course on my side, set course on your side, select autopilot on. Select flight directors on off, speed mode, heading mode, speed mode, nav mode, heading mode, nav mode, arm approach. So there's various things here. Overhead panel as well, you can select a few things on, select wipers on, wipers off, cowls on, wings and cowls on, cowls off, strobes on, strobes off, taxi light on, off, landing light on, off, APU on, off, seatbelt on, off. So there is a bunch of stuff you can get them to do with the overhead panel. That being said, the wipers are not on the overhead panel, they're down here, but you know, the implication being systems type stuff, you can get them to do systems type stuff. So it's yeah, that's where FS2Crew, yeah, she's clearly not impressed. See, but isn't that realistic? Like just the edge of loathing in their voice. See, and I joke, but at the end of the day, like I look upon the cabin crew as always being a very important part of the flight as a whole. They really are there to serve some safety functions. They're there to you know, supervise the cabin, make sure everything is okay in the cabin. And of course, if anything's not okay in the cabin, to help find a way to solve it, whether it be medical situation, you know, potentially fire, unruly pastures, anything like that. The cabin crew really is an important part of the team on board the aircraft. And I still hear lots of stories, and I don't see it so much. The airlines I've worked at, I haven't seen it so much, but it's not that I don't believe the stories, because I do believe they're true, but there's a lot of pilots that just regard the cabin crew with a lot of disdain, and I don't understand that mentality. You know, yes, they don't have a job that's as prestigious as yours, but they still do have an important job function to do. They have, you know, without them, you wouldn't be able to do your job properly. You know, there's some airlines where, you know, the second the engines are off, the airplane is secured, the pilots are allowed to leave long before the passengers leave. The flight attendants have to stay on board until all the passengers are gone, but the pilots can leave as soon as the airplane is turned off, as soon as the engines are turned off, and that blows my mind. As an airline captain, like, at the end of the day, all the people who sit in the airplane are your responsibility, and to my mind, they are your responsibility from the time they get on that aircraft until the time they get off, not just while you're in flight. To me, it's still even on the ground. From the time they get on that airplane to the time they get off, they are the captain's responsibility. The idea that the captain would just leave, you know, after one or two passengers are gone, and while most of them are still struggling to get off the airplane, you know, the odds of something happening at that point, very minimal, but it's not zero. It's certainly not zero. Stuff could still happen. There could be, you know, fuel spills or fires or any kind of incident, any kind of safety incident you don't know. And the idea that people leave like that, and not only that, but to me, it even shows a little bit of disrespect for your cabin crew as well. Like the fact that you just sort of leave them hanging, instead of being one team until the job is completed, fully completed, leaving them hanging with the passengers while you just leave. That I think also, to me, it's also disrespectful to the cabin crew. definitely not my way of operating. I 100% believe in sticking around until the last passenger is off the airplane, unless I very rarely, and I won't say I've never left before that, because very rarely I have left when there is another flight or there's something, some other overriding reason why I would have to leave in a hurry. But I would only even consider that if the FO offered it as a, hey, you got to go somewhere. You know, I'll stay here. The only things I could really think of is, like, you know, if I'm rushing home, like, pick up the kids from work or something like that, or pick up the kids from school after work. You know, and I got to sort of get out right now, or I'm not going to make it, or something like that, or maybe I have another flight to go to, and they're waiting to leave just because they don't have a captain, they're just waiting for me to show up. And if the FO were to offer and say, hey, I'll stay here till they're done, why don't you go and get a head start? I'd be okay with that. I can deal with that. But the idea of both pilots just leaving and leaving the flight attendants there, you know, it just blows me away. Depending on the station, you know, especially if the station they're not familiar with, the flight attendants may not even know how to communicate with anybody if something happens. You know, there may be a bridge at the gate, but do they know the phone number to call if there's an emergency? So staying there as a communication conduit as well. Just if there is something that happens in the airplane and the flight attendants need assistance, who are they going to call? You know, if they're at their home base, they probably know the emergency numbers there. But if you go to an outstation somewhere in another location, who are they going to call? That sort of thing just blows me away, and I think it sows discord between the front end and the back end. Having that kind of a relationship, and most of the airlines I've worked at to date, there's generally a pretty good relationship between the front and the back end. But I think there has to be a lot of mutual respect for that to occur, and if either end does not respect the other, and I've gotten that feeling from the current company that a lot of flight attendants are surprised at my philosophies, so surprised at the way we stick around and wait until everybody's off before we leave. Like, apparently that's not an uncommon thing where a lot of people do leave before. A lot of pilots often do leave before the passengers are gone, and it blows me away. At the end of the day, especially at outstations, it doesn't even matter, because at the outstation you're all probably going to take the same taxi to the same hotel, so why bother to leave in a hurry, you know? Anyways, it's sort of an odd thing I've noticed lately. Alright, how long have we got till we get to Lethbridge here? So we're just coming up over Regina here shortly, which is kind of like the halfway mark already. Let's see here, let's do a progress page and see what it says. It says 51 minutes to Lethbridge. So what we're going to do is we're going to start setting it up now. Because there is no star, no arrival process to plan, I don't believe. Yeah, I'm going to start planning early just so I can get a top of descent and come up with a plan, because also this is an airport I've never been to before, simulator or otherwise. So yeah, this is going to be a new experience for me. So let's go ahead and start looking at some charts. So I just pulled up the weather at 1600 Zulu, 290 12 gust 19, 30 miles per hour, 6,000. So let's see here. And almost halfway. Yeah, Regina pretty much was exactly the halfway mark. Alright, so let's have a quick look first at the airport diagram and see what we got in terms of runways. So,
Winnipeg Center, Walker 698, level 350, over to south and east of Yankee, with Victor, VOR, about 1,000.
I'm going to take runway
Heavy Winnipeg Center,
for the landing.
652, Walker 698.
Especially with this FO, this new FO that I'm trying to train. I don't have a whole lot of faith that he's going to do things well, so... I don't believe we have any stars. No stars. So we're going to do 2-4. All we got is RNAVs here. We got no...
Walker 698, your identified flight.
Oh, there's an ILS actually, 06, never mind, but mostly RNAVs. Spin around the other way, there's an ILS, but we're not going to be doing that. We're going to do the RNAV to runway 24. We're going to backtrack, we're going to taxi in here to the terminal apron, where we'll park. It's just basically simulating a charter flight today, I think, with this aircraft. I don't think they have... Not sure if they have scheduled service in Lethbridge, but I don't think they do. It's not that far from Calgary, so I think it's one of those cases of just drive to Calgary. You get a lot of options if you drive all the way to Calgary. Trifix, if you don't mind me asking, are you a pilot in the real world? Trifix1X asks. Yes, that's why I was able to rant on about cabin crews, back ends, and front ends, because
KLM 601 Heavy, Squawk 0635.
yeah, I've dealt with it in the real world, and sometimes some of the things I've seen surprise me, disappoint me. All right, RNAV runway
601, you're identified, flight level 340.
I think it's an RMP, no, it's LNAV, VNAV, or LPC. So let's do this. Let's do, so we're going to basically just set up
601, Roger, climb flight level 360.
Straight in by Norig. Let's see here. You know what? I'm going to do one of the transitions just because, let's do this. Actually, I can do this. This will really kind of give me a nice way. Overlay this on my en route map. It is almost straight in, but the trouble is I have an MSA. I guess we could do this. How far is it? 6 miles. There's an MSA of 5,700 around runway 24. So if I was to go, yeah, no, if I go straight into Norig at 5,700, that's okay, because the actual glide path altitude at Norig would be 63. So if I come in at 57, I'm below the glide path. I can still intercept it. So yeah, let's just do that. We'll plan to go straight into Norig. Alright, so let's set that up in the FMC here. So arrival, RNAV runway 24. And I'm going to put one of the transitions in here, and then we're going to delete the waypoint there. So go in there. That did not do a good job at all. What the heck? That was a terrible arrival there. Alright, let's do POMSUS. Alright, let's do flight plan. Let's see what it's got here now. I think it's probably because I have CYQL in there. Maybe it's screwed it up. Oh, no, they are in there. POMSUS Norig. So let's put Norig. And we're just going to move this up here right after Desnu. Because it's pretty much a direct track, no one's going to know the difference today. So after Desnu, we go direct to Norig. And that should, and then just doing that straight in approach. There's Desnu. And then we'll go straight in. So let's do that. And, let's see, the altitude has got 4,400 above. So it looks like it's got all the VNAV information it should need here for us to find its descent. So I don't see a top of descent point on there. Oh, there it is. Yep, just off the screen there. So top descent's about 200 miles away. About 320 miles from Lethbridge, and top descent at about 200 miles. So yeah, so let's do that. Let's also get the minimums in there. Don't need that. The minimums are. Want to do the LVV, we want to do the LNAV VNAV, 3312. It's going to take a little while for me to dial that up. 3312, so round it up to 3320. Yeah, and I can't hold it down. When I push the button, it just thinks I'm trying to push it in. So I've got to just roll my mouse wheel all the way up there to 3320. This is going to take a minute. And this is something else that I would really like to do. Is I would really like that honeycomb, because I would really like to have some of these.
41 Heavy, Squawk 0636.
Some of these various guidance panel knobs on there. Maybe a minimums knob on there would be nice as well.
41 Squawk 0636.
For those days when you're flying to a high elevation airport. Just past Regina there. Check it out in a second here. 3320. Was that it? 3320, I believe. 3320. Yep. Just passed over Regina. I don't really see anything in there anyways. It's behind us there somewhere. Just past.
This is 41 Heavy, identified flight level 370. Welcome.
Sounds like a typical day in Winnipeg. Not very busy. I find the same thing whenever I'm controlling Winnipeg. Although, that being said, I gotta say, I had a lot of fun the other night. What night was it? Was it Monday night? Monday night, I just logged on to do some VATSIM ATC. I didn't do anything crazy. I just logged on to go do some VATSIM ATC. And, yeah, so Monday night, I was just logged on. I was just going to do some VATSIM ATC. I decided to log on to Winnipeg. I haven't logged on for a while. I was trying to work on a couple other things at the same time, so I thought I'd provide some ATC, but I wouldn't go like too insane. And I noticed that Winnipeg had a number of arrivals in Regina. I had like 3 or 4 guys slated to go to Regina, and I thought, oh, it's only odd, okay, whatever. Cool. Maybe I'll still be there when they get there. And then I logged. So then I logged on and I started controlling, and really not much happened for about an hour. I talked to these 2 guys, and that was about it. And then as I kept on watching VATSIM, I noticed more and more people logging on, going to Regina of all places, and not to belittle Regina, but it's not a place that sees a lot of traffic in the real world. It's not a place that sees a lot of traffic in VATSIM. At the end of the day, we ended up with, I think, 10 arrivals into Regina, and it seemed like it was an intended fly-in because they're all American Airlines call signs, and they all showed up within about a 15-minute window. So we had 10 arrivals into Regina over a 15-minute window. And I actually had to sequence these arrivals to Regina, if you can believe that, which is just, it's not something you normally expect to ever have to do when you log in. When you log into Winnipeg, is have to sequence 10 arrivals into Regina, but I had to give these guys all speed restrictions. I had to get them all slowed down. I had to give a couple of guys turns off course to get them to reestablish spacing. I was shocked. 10 arrivals, but you know what? At the end of the day, it was tons of fun too. Though, like that's part of the fun, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy VATSIM is doing that sort of thing. Doing like helping pilots, you know, fly to an airport without hitting each other, maintaining safe separation, providing a reasonably efficient operation. So I thought it was really kind of fun. But yeah, totally unexpected. And somebody even showed up. Who was it? I can't think of his name now. Oh, it's gonna bug me. He showed up to work Regina Tower when shortly before the first arrival. So I asked him, like, is there something going on? Like, does anyone know? Like, why is there a dozen people going to Regina? And he's like, no, we don't know anything. We don't know anything. Nobody told us anything. But I guess they must have been having some kind of fly-in, some kind of competition where they're all trying to get there at roughly the same time. Because, yeah, 10 people show up in Regina, of all places. Not the first place you think of when you think of heavy VATSIM ATC controlling, but yeah. And then, of course, because of that, we had a tower controller, we had ADAs, we even got a ground controller, we got a couple of departures out of Regina at the same time, so about 2 or 3 guys logged in to depart Regina, because all of a sudden Regina was a busy airport with lots of stuff happening. It was tight. I had these guys down to pretty much 3-mile spacing on final, spotting each other visual on final. The other thing that made it challenging is that there's no ILS to the active runway in Regina. It's only RNAV, so they were choosing between the RNAV Zulu and Yankee, and I had these 2 different converging paths because they were coming from multiple different directions. They were flying multiple different transitions. Have a blast 420, welcome aboard. And it was really interesting and challenging trying to time them on different transitions and making sure that they all join final with sufficient separation. It's easier when everyone's on a common ILS and you're giving everyone vectors and everyone's flying the same approach, but when they're flying different approaches or even different approach transitions, timing can be really, really critical and really challenging. And I found that aspect challenging in a good way though. Like, I enjoyed the challenge. I have not done that for a while. Even when we did the F&O, I'm going to probably post the video later today if I have time, but we did the F&O last Friday in Vancouver. I don't think I worked that hard on the approach in Vancouver as I did controlling Winnipeg Centre on Monday night when there were 12 arrivals into Regina. And it really was a challenge to get them all in there. Have a Blast says he's doing 2 flights today. Where is that, 2 fights or 2 flights? Because it says fights. Where are you flying today? We are on our way to Lethbridge, Alberta. There's some good scenery on flightsim.to, so that's why I decided to head out there. Otherwise, there's not much scenery in the Edmonton FIR yet. Now, again, Sim Add-ons has created some scenery for some Canadian airports there for MSFS. It looks like it's gotten better. The first few screenshots did not look that great, so I kind of dismissed them as being one of the developers that wasn't going to put a whole lot of effort into MSFS. And then I've looked back over some of their screenshots, and they're definitely looking more impressive now as they've gone. So on my radar as another developer that I would probably like to invest in. However, that being said, I've spent quite a bit of money lately on airports. I'm also kind of saving my pennies for a couple things. I really want a Honeycomb Bravo, but I also am saving up money for some of the new airplanes that are coming out in Microsoft Flight Simulator, because there's going to be a lot of airplanes that come out in the next, let's see here, in the next, I don't know, 3 months even? 3 months, next 3 months, you're going to see a whole array of narrow-body airliners come to the sim, to the point where you're going to, you know, you're going to be struggling to kind of fly them all. Like, I tell you, I want to buy them all. I won't be able to buy them all right up front because it's going to be a little bit pricey, but over the next 6 months or so, I think most of my spending in the sim is going to shift from kind of spending on airports and kind of getting some nice airport scenery to let's get some nice airplanes to fly between those airports. Have a blast as he's doing Chicago to Charlotte and Charlotte to Dublin. That's a pretty ambitious day. Are you flying, what sim are you flying? Are you flying Microsoft Flight Simulator, or are you flying X-Plane? I assume very few people are flying P3D these days. I shouldn't assume it's not, because a lot of the people that are still flying P3D are the die-hard simmers that they appreciate the quality of the airplanes that are available in that sim. Oh, I forgot my webcam. I turned it off because I was doing some internal shots there. So P3D is not dead yet, but at the same time as a platform, it is kind of dying a slow death. Case in point, a little bit of news this last week is that, who was it? Was it Sim Skunkworks, I think? Who was it? Somebody this last week, and I'm trying to remember, announced that they were also shifting all of their sorry, I'm trying to remember who it was. They were basically releasing all of their P3D catalog for free. I think they said in 3 months. They're going to stop all development on the platform. Who was it? Sorry, I'm just looking back, scrolling through my news feed here just to see who it was. Was it Milviz? Who was it? I can't find it here. But another developer announced that they were moving all development solely to MSFS, or at least they didn't really announce that they were moving all their development to MSFS. They implied it by stating the fact that they were releasing all of their previous aircraft for P3D for free. Unsupported, but for free, starting in, I think, 3 months. Maybe it was Milviz? I'm trying to find it here. I read it this week. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to scroll back through this to see. But regardless of who it was, like, it sort of, it speaks to the fact that, like, I know Airplane Heaven did it. I think Airplane Heaven did it first. Or maybe it was Airplane Heaven that announced it this week. I can't find it now. Of course I can't find it when I'm looking for it. But yeah, like the fact that like all these developers are kind of like releasing all their P3D products for free kind of is indicative of their belief of the status of the platform, which is that the platform is, it's not a platform that's going to go away, but it's not a platform that people are probably going to be spending a lot of money on in the near future. It seems like they've kind of transitioned to they've transitioned to, most of these places have transitioned to it developing exclusively for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I can't find it in my newsfeed here. It was here. Yeah, and you're right. Aerosoft is developing the 330. They're only just publishing their first previews at this point, so that's still a ways away. Or was it SimWorks? Maybe it was SimWorks Studios. Might have been SimWorks that announced that they were releasing all. And there's a company that had a lot. There's a developer that had a lot of aircraft. Yeah, there it is. SimWorks Studios making prepared products free. Yeah. So what does it say here? So another piece of news. So all P3D FSX products will be removed from sale by April 1st. None of the products will receive updates and or be supported, but then in 6 months' time they will all be released as
41 heavy
freeware.
space to the east.
Unsupported freeware, but freeware nonetheless.
Service terminates.
So it's yeah, I think that action by Airplane Heaven and SimSkunkWorks kind of speaks to where most of the developers feel like the hobby is heading. And as much as P3D is still a good platform, it's still a viable platform. The visual fidelity you get from it, it's not. You can't compare it to the visual fidelity you get from Microsoft Flight Simulator, or X-Plane for that matter. And so I think the developers don't see as much of a future there. And certainly the market has spoken. Look at the Navigraph survey from this past December, the community survey, and look at the number of people. I think Microsoft Flight Simulator was being used by like 60% of the community. You know, outnumbering almost everybody else. X-Plane's the only one that even is still in the running. P3D has gone down to like 20% or something like that. So it's very much like if you want to make money as a developer, unfortunately P3D is not a platform where you're going to make a lot of money. And considering that most of the time the way the platforms are set up, like you have to reinvest a lot of that time to develop the P3D platform, even if you make an airplane for the Flight Simulator platform, first of all, and then you try to port it back to P3D, there's going to be a lot of additional effort. Is it worth it for the revenue? The time you need to do to make it backwards compatible, and maybe the compromises you have to make to make the product backwards compatible, it's just not worth it for most of the developers. So it seems like most developers are kind of easing away from P3D, easing into Microsoft Flight Simulator, and that's where the future is. So will P3D be around for a while? I think so. I don't think Lockheed Martin's giving up on it. In the grand scheme of the Lockheed Martin business, pennies in their business. Really, at the end of the day, Lockheed Martin makes so much money from making actual products and selling them to the U.S. government that what they have made over the years off of P3D is just pennies. It's a rounding error on their corporate balance sheet. So as long as there's a few managers that support it, think that it's a worthwhile project, and there's probably government customers buying it, they'll probably keep it going. It probably is not, in the grand scheme of where Lockheed Martin's finances are concerned, the development of P3D and maintaining a development team for P3D is nothing. It's really next to nothing. If they ever run to a point where they're having a bad fiscal quarter, they're mounting losses, recession, whatever, and they're starting to look places to cut, that may be the time when you see P3D. But as long as Lockheed Martin is making a reasonable amount of money, I don't think you're going to see the P3D era end anytime soon, because that development team will continue for a long time. I think it's such a small outlay from the Lockheed Martin overall corporate budget that it's not even on anybody's radar. I guarantee you, most of the C-suite at Lockheed Martin has no idea what P3D even is. So the Aerosoft is making the A330. I agree, and that's going to be great when it does come out. However, again, they're just doing their first previews. I would estimate that they're still in a fairly early phase of development. I mean, Aerosoft's a pretty decent-sized developer. When they move something to the front burner of their development, it tends to progress pretty quickly. But I would estimate, my best guess is that you're talking probably about still 6 months before you see a 330 release, maybe less. But I would estimate that you're probably dealing in that time frame. Who's bringing that A300? Because for me personally, like, I can't deal with Aerosoft is about the lowest end sim airplane I can deal with. The systems sort of work a little bit, but not really. That's about the lowest end I can deal with. I can't really deal with a lot of these simpler airliners where the FMS really doesn't do anything, where the buttons really are just there for show. You can click them back and forth and they don't do anything. I can't deal with that. I look for systems depth. That's what I want to see in the sims. I want to see systems depth. So I'm a fan of the PMDG level aircraft. The Phoenix A320 looks like it's going to be really good when it comes out. The Fly the Mad Dog, that looks like it's going to be a fantastic airplane as well. I'm assuming it's going to be fantastic.
4234, the space to the south Minneapolis is on surveillance. Terminates under the
their P3D version was fantastic, so I assume that's going to be fantastic. Aerosoft, I can deal with their aircraft. Their aircraft are deep enough that it scratches the itch, and especially because they're often unique aircraft that nobody else has modeled. I can deal with that. I think they're going to have a hard time with their A320 family this time around, just because there's so much competition between the Phoenix A320, which they will probably be targeting more the high end, and probably that you'll need like a really fancy, fast computer to run that one, and the fly-by-wire, which of course will be a decent model, but it will be free. So how are you going to compete with that? Aerosoft is going to have to. And again, I like competition in the marketplace, but I really just don't see where Aerosoft can make back an investment on developing a 320 when they're competing with fly-by-wire who's putting it out there for free. So the only thing about the fly-by-wire one, of course, is that because it's free and it's just being developed by a community, it's very slow progress. It's not making quick progress. Things are being tweaked here and there, and slowly it's improving, but it's not a fast process, and there's no real deadline to get into a very realistic kind of final state that they like. So will Aerosoft be able to compete with the fly-by-wire? Maybe, if they get to market soon enough, where they can say, hey, we've got an airplane that is much more finished than the fly-by-wire product. You got to pay for it, but it's finished. That might be their in, because otherwise I don't see it. You know, when you're offering almost the same product, because the fly-by-wire, they are trying to go for at least the same level as Aerosoft, if not a little higher even. So I don't see a lot of market for Aerosoft unless they can either have a really unique offering in one way, or maybe just the fact that they can bring it to market soon enough that they can say, hey, here's a really high quality and mostly complete A320 versus your fly-by-wire, which is still very heavily in the development phase. Stuff works on it, but some stuff, the VNAV is kind of god-awful, and a bunch of other stuff doesn't work yet. So it will be interesting to see what PMDG brings to the platform after the 737, what their next priority is. The first two obvious choices are, of course, the 47 and the 777, because those were obviously two hugely popular aircraft in the P3D era for them, made tons of money for them. I would love to see the 747 because I really like that airplane. I think that's a fun airplane to fly, but the triple is also a simpler airplane, but still a fun airplane to fly. I would not be against seeing the triple in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I think it'd be great. But then there's also that little outside possibility of the 57, which they had sort of... they've never even said anything publicly about it. All they did was Randazzo had a video, and he had the model of the 757 on his desk. And one thing that P3D does, or PMDG does, is generally if they have a model like that of the aircraft, it usually means that it's something that they're developing. So is that something they're developing? Is it a top secret hush-hush development project right now that's being kept under wraps? It's going to just suddenly be dropped in our laps one day, 4 weeks before it releases, they're going to suddenly throw out this teaser and everyone's going to just drool over it? Or is it more like wishful thinking, like, hey, it's a project we're thinking about, we'd like to work on? I kind of, that they've been very coy about it. They haven't said yay or nay to it. They've said almost nothing about it. So it makes me think that it is a project they're considering. And I don't see it as being very far along. And the reason is, of course, because PMDG is generally fairly forthcoming with their design efforts. When they do stuff, when they're putting stuff out there, they're generally pretty... they put out the information. They tell people what's happening. They don't keep things... They keep things a little bit close to their chest, certainly in terms of release dates, but they tell people what's in the pipeline. They tell them and where they are in the pipeline. So I wouldn't be surprised if they suddenly said, hey, yeah, there's a 757 that's half done development. It would certainly be a nice change of pace. It's something a little different from the other ones, from the 47, from the 777. Slide into maybe a little bit smaller airports, but yeah, it's an interesting possibility anyways. Certainly to expand the PMDG product line, because it's hard to believe with all the hype that goes around PMDG that they've only ever released, like, in the last, 8 years, they've only really released 4 airplanes. They've released the DC-6, and they've released the 37, the 47, and the 777, and that's it. And for a company that makes a fair amount of money and spends a lot of time in development, it's almost crazy to think that they've only released 4 aircraft. Alright, We are getting closer to Lethbridge here. We got about 60 miles till our top descent point here. How are we doing here in terms of leaving Winnipeg's airspace? Or did Winnipeg vanish and I didn't even notice? No, Winnipeg's still here. For some reason, it's not drawing on my map as they are here. Other VATSIM ATC is showing us online, so it must be the WPG Center call sign that's not recognized properly here. Anyways, we're about to cross their boundary here in the next little while, then we'll be on our descent into Lethbridge. And then the last two legs of our Canadian tour is Lethbridge over to Kelowna. Just going here, somewhere here, and then Kelowna down to Vancouver. And I think that's going to be tons of fun. I definitely want to do the Kelowna to Vancouver leg in the DC6. I haven't decided if I want to do Lethbridge as well, or maybe do it something a little faster just so it doesn't turn into a super long stream. But that's my plan is next Thursday night. So Thursday I believe it's the 30th of April. Starting at around midnight Zulu, I was planning to do a live stream and hopefully a group flight as well. So anybody that wants to join me, please, especially for that last leg, Kelowna down to Vancouver. Really would like to try and get a bunch of guys to do this. I think it'd be lots of fun. It's a really nice scenic trip. Hopefully it's not too cloudy that day.
Canadian Express 472, leave my space to the west. Empton is offline. Ground service terminates under Unicom 122.8. See it.
Thank you very much for the service this morning. Off to the Unicom 22.8, Canadian Express 472. G'day. Off to Unicom. Got a little over 100 miles to go. Yeah, this one was a little bit of a long strain of... It's not a long strain. There's really not much happening in here. That's probably the most thing. It's boring, I think, but it gives you lots of time to talk about interesting stuff. So, yeah, I think I've covered most of the things. I didn't see any really crazy news. I thought this week, nothing really kind of updating the... nothing really updating like the impending release dates of any aircraft or anything. One thing I did see actually this week, and it's totally not sim related, but I just thought I would mention it. I don't know if it's still available or not, but there was a Humble bundle this week that supported 4 charities in Ukraine. I'm not sure if it's still being offered, to be honest. Just trying to find it here really quickly on my other computer, but it might be gone now. Nope, it is still the Stand With Ukraine bundle for one more day, guys. One more day. The Stand With Ukraine bundle is up. You can donate whatever amount you choose. There is, as I understand on this one, there is no minimum on this one, but all proceeds will go to support will be split between 4 different charities supporting Ukraine. The other thing to say about it is that the amount of software you get, it's not just games, there's a bunch of games, but it's also some other software. There's PDF software, there's a bunch of Unity gaming engine development software. All told, there's over $2,500 worth of software in this Stand With Ukraine bundle. All these developers are giving for free. 100% of the proceeds from this are being split among 4 different Ukrainian charities. And you can get this $2,500 software bundle for whatever you want to give. So if you've been sort of sitting on the fence about donating to charity, not sure what charity to donate to, head on over to the Humble Bundle store, humblebundle.com if you don't know, and just go to bundles. First one there, Stand With Ukraine, and it's for one more day, one day only. But pick it up, pay whatever you want, pay whatever you feel is appropriate. The developers and the Humble store get 0 from this one. This one is 100% proceeds going to support 4 Ukrainian charities, and I'm going to click on it now because I want to see to date $21.5 million raised by this bundle alone. $21.5 million. Unbelievable. Just immense, and people paid them incredible amounts for this. Like, you can actually see the top paying people leaderboard. There it is. Top contributors have donated $10,000 to get this $2,500 software package. Not because they want the software. It's nice to have it, and maybe you'll use it, maybe you won't, but because they're just donating to the charity. $10,000 some of these people paid for this. And even if you just pay the pay the minimum. So apparently the minimum is $51 Canadian. Even if you pay the minimum, that money is 100% going to support people of Ukraine one way or another. The humanitarian disaster that's unfolding now, unfortunately, in Ukraine. And I don't want to talk about it because it's depressing to talk about it, and I try not to talk about. I try not to talk too much about these events on world events on stream, just because, not because I don't think they're not important, but because I still want this stream to be kind of an escape. The only thing I'll say is that I 100% stand with Ukraine as well. I cannot believe that they're suffering from this unprovoked attack. I can't believe the humanitarian nightmare that's unfolding on that part of the world. I wish sometimes that there was more that I could do. My kids ask me, like, if Canada went to war tomorrow, would you join? Would you join and would you go? And there's a part of me that says yes. And I'm not an only person. I'm not. It's not that I'm not a big believer in the military, because that's not the right way to put it. But you know, I don't believe that my way of thinking really is a military way of thinking. But this is right up there with. This is getting right up there with World War II in terms of just, you know, one country just unilaterally invading another with no justification whatsoever. Innocent people dying and freedom of everybody in this planet being assaulted by this action. So, anyways, yeah, I've told my kids, like, I would think about it. I would have to seriously think about it if war broke out. Like, I have kids that I have to think about, like, my impact on their lives, but at the same time, like, what kind of a world do I want to live in? What kind of a message do I want to send them about? You know, it's easy to kind of sit back here and talk about it and say yes, I support them. It's another thing to take action and do that and do something to support them. So, anyways, I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want this to turn into a depressing stream. But if you get a chance, Humble Bundle, buy that Support Ukraine, Stand With Ukraine bundle. It's totally worth it for the amount of software that you get. You know, even if you were to just use 10% of those, play 10% of those games, you can probably get your money's worth out of it. And it's all supporting a good cause anyways. So do it. All right, here we go. We are just approaching top of descent. So let's go ahead and set 10,000 and let's start down. One thing I didn't actually do was I didn't actually do an approach briefing with the first officer here, so let's do that. I'm being a little bit undisciplined here. Are you ready for the approach briefing? Are you ready for the approach brief? Are you ready for the approach brief? The hell? Are you ready for the approach briefing? Are you ready for the approach brief? Yeah, recognize I said it, but it didn't trigger anything. So yeah, now I had this problem the other day and it's got some issues. So anyways, yeah. It seems like it's not really sure what it wants to do here. Let's see if I set this up here. Are you ready for the approach brief? Still does not recognize me as saying it. But anyways, let's do this briefing real quick here. Yeah, something's not quite right with the way this whole thing is working still. I don't know what, but it's not really quite working. So, actually, one thing I do need, give me 1 second. I do need my speed cards. Where's my speed card for this aircraft? There it is. What does Travis say? Ep.4 wants nothing to do with you. I love it. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It seems like it didn't sequence properly in the climb again. That's my general impression again, is that something happened in the climb. It maybe because I didn't use the right phraseology, because I didn't say climb sequence at the right point, and now it didn't sequence properly. So because it says you must make sure that the FO hears to say approach briefing, because that switches to descent mode, and it didn't do that. So I'm gonna have to manually tell it when to do the descent here. So ZFW today 56.4, and we got 66. So 56.4, 6.6, that's 12, that's about 63,000 pound numbers. So I'm gonna grab my landing cards here, 63,000 pounds. We're looking at a VREF of 129. All right, so speeds are checked, and let's just do this approach checklist here really quickly, or this briefing here. So there is no transition, so we're going straight, no start transition. We're going straight into the RNAV runway 24 in Lethbridge, Alberta, 7th of October of 21, 12-3. We don't have QoS on this aircraft. We are going to be straight in for the RNAV. Final approach course is going to be 236. And you can see that there, 235, close enough. Glide path conditional altitude at VOLAT 4,400 feet. And the LNAV, VNAV, MDA I put in 3312, so I should have 3320 up here. I do, which is 297 feet above ground. The airport elevation's at 3015, so I got 3040 there. The runway is actually quite low, but then the airport's a little higher, 3050, so that's good. 3049 is good. Missed approach is climbed to 4,800 feet track of 236 to Zovem, straight ahead, as required shuttle climb. And the 100-mile safe width is 13,100, probably because the mountains are off to the west of Lethbridge. Fortunately, we have an MSA of 5,700 around Lethbridge. When using Pitcher Creek altimeter, nope, we're not doing that. Barrow VNAV not authorized to use remote altimeter. Okay, that's okay. We're using the local one for uncompensated. Don't worry about that. Pilot controlled lighting 121.0. It's daytime, not an issue. So we got Norig and Volat, and then runway 24. We're just straight in. 1 mile's minimum visibility. I should not block my speed view with this because I'm going to slowly accelerate as we go downhill if I'm not careful. Odals and Pappies on the left, and once we land on runway 24, it's going to be backtrack and Alpha into the apron where we'll park and call it a day. Terrain, again, 5,700 foot's the MSA. Weather is, looks VMC. Let's just retrieve the weather one more time. Just make sure. CYQL, yeah, just a gusty wind. Yeah, still the 16-hour weather. Operational, no MELs, no NOTAMs, and fuel to go to Calgary. Where's my sit brief here? Fuel to go to Calgary, we need about 3,000. We got about 65. We'll probably have about 6 by the time we get there. I find this, we kind of underburn this. Sim brief kind of overestimates our burn, or this burn is under what it should be, one or the other. But we always end up with way more fuel than we should have. And that's all I got. Any questions?
No questions.
Oh, okay, I guess it did trigger the approach brief. Are you ready for the approach brief? Are you ready for the approach brief?
Go ahead.
Any questions?
No questions.
You know why it didn't trigger? Because I didn't ask any questions after the departure briefing. That's why it didn't trigger properly. Hey, look, no snow. It's green down there. Nice. That's why. So see, and this is the thing, like FS2Crew is getting a little bit more finicky. In the previous iterations, it was never that finicky. Now it's getting finicky. I'm beginning to... It's a little bit harder for it to recover when it gets out of order, which is a little frustrating. There is the... Where is it here? There is the manual flow command selector. So here we go. So now it knows that we're doing the descent. You can see the next thing it's asking for is the descent check. So after we pass 180, I'm supposed to ask for the descent check. No, I won't even ask for it. They'll just do it. No. Hold on. Set exterior lights as desired. Set your altimeter to local pressure when past transition level. There is no call-out for this procedure. FS2Crew will not update the FO's altimeter, so ensure your altimeter is set to automatically sync. After the FO is completed, descent flow, and when ready, command descent check. So the FO is going to do the descent check automatically at 18,000. Turn on the seatbelts and thrust reversers. Once he's done that, we've set our altimeters, then I'm going to call for the descent check. Just to make sure that everything's been done properly. Okay, we're getting there. So yeah, these are the things that I'm learning. Like I'm slowly learning some of these mistakes and triggers and hang-ups with FS2Crew. And that's the thing, like this is the second time I have used this. I did a flight yesterday, it kind of went okay, but it had some issues. Obviously today's flight is roughly the same story. Kind of okay, still having some issues, but I think I'm starting to figure out some of these issues as well. So hopefully over time I will get a little bit smarter here. Targeting 300 knots. And after all that coffee I drank and the amount of time I spent sitting here, I really kind of need to use the lab. But now that we're in our descent, I don't dare take my eyes off this airplane for a minute, so we'll just keep going until we get to the ground, finish the stream, and then go from there. So here comes 18,000. So sounds like the FO turned on the seatbelts, and there he goes. He turned on the thrust reversers all by himself. The altimeter 3018. Descent checklist.
Pressurization set. Fuel checked. Altimeters.
3018 set left.
3018 set right. Landing data set 4 600 pounds. Thrust reversers.
Armed.
Lights.
Set.
Seatbelt sign.
On.
Seatbelt and shoulder harness.
Check left.
Checked right. Approach briefing.
Complete.
Descent check complete.
There. That checklist went the way it was supposed to. Some of them are doing it okay, some of them are not. Okay, how far are we here still? Still 40 miles away. Let's pull out the chart one more time here and see if we can get a little lower than 10 grand. Yeah, see, AMA's on this side of the airport. Yeah, we can get down to 6,000 easily, so let's put 6,000 in, and then that should probably take us pretty much to our descent. Or pretty much to our approach. Bit of a wind shift there, I guess. What's the outside temperature now? -1. Get the cowl anti-ice on just as a precaution here. We're just about hitting a tad of -1, so we might get some ice going through this cloud here. So we got the anti-ice on already. Of course, that's going to make it a little bit problematic to try and slow down. As we approach 10,000 feet. See, now right now it's showing us as being level quite a bit back from no rig there, but we also have to start shallowing out our descent in order to slow down, especially because we have the anti-ice on, which is going to keep the power up a little bit here. So I'm just getting a little closer to 10,000, and then we're going to start shallowing out that descent to help us reduce speed, although she's slowing down a little bit on her own without a whole lot of effort from me, which is good. Still want to level off a little bit early if we can to help us give us some margin to lose some speed there. Now. Did get the ice, it's not bad. Tab 0. We're going to go out the bottom here momentarily as well. And not looking too bad here. Shallow this out here, lose that speed. Another big altitude speed jump there all of a sudden. Little wind shear, I guess. And now you can see we're getting 6,000 close to Norid. It should be above 57, so yeah, that's looking like that's going to work out pretty well here. Speed's coming back to 250 nicely. All right, everything's working out here. Hope the scenery looks good. I haven't even actually checked it out. I downloaded it, threw it in the community folder, didn't even have a chance to look at it yet, so hopefully hopefully it looks good. Or this will all have been for nothing. It looked really good in the screenshots I saw anyways. Isn't that always the way? Don't the screenshots always look the best? We're going to just increase the rate of descent a little bit here to make sure we level off just a little bit early so we have some time to lose speed as we start setting up for the approach here. Well, winter seems to be gone from this part of the prairies anyways. Look in the distance, yeah. Not really yet, but hopefully you'll be able to see the mountains shortly here. Come out the bottom. I'm going to take my Navigraph chart. Just really quickly throw my approach chart out here on the other screen and keep it handy. Let's see here. If we're doing 140 knots, it's going to be about 750 feet per minute, 800. 150 equals 800 feet per minute. That's kind of my reference. So once we start slowing here, we're going to have to pay attention to that. Pretty much straight in, so should see this runway. That might be the airport even over there. It's not far now. It's about 20 miles away, so I'm gonna let it level at 6,000 and start losing speed. Alright, so that was 7 descending 6,000. Yep, I think that is the airport there. I think I see some flashing lights now, so we're just close enough to start seeing the flashing lights. 17 degrees down here. We definitely do not need the cowl in the ice anymore. So turn that off. Here comes the altitude capture for 6,000. This will help us lose some speed and set us up for nicely for the straight in approach here. Course alive. Course alive.
Roger.
Bring this up just so I have it handy so I know what he's thinking and saying. Flaps 1.
Flaps 1.
What was that wind? Let's check one more time. 290 total is 19. So view wrap about 29. We're going to keep it about 142. That's the final target. Flaps 8.
Flaps 8.
Flaps 20.
Flaps 20.
Gear down.
Gear down.
Lethbridge, Alberta traffic and Express 472 is on a straight and final runway 24. Flaps 30.
Flaps 30.
Flaps 45.
Flaps 45. 4 landing check, landing gear.
Down 3 green.
Spoiler 0. Flaps 45. 4 landing check complete.
Check. Okay, so target speed's 140. Trying to keep into that.
Thanks for letting me know.
$500 above minimums.
Check.
$100 above.
Check.
Minimums. Landing.
300. 200. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
90 knots.
Checked. Felt a little short running up to it, but that wasn't too bad. Get the next sheet of my script here. After landing check. All right, we made it. That was an ordeal and a half to get here anyways. That felt like an ordeal and a half. I'm so happy we made it. I've noticed more and more flights are starting to use TrackIR. Do you think it's worth getting it? I do. Now that I've used it, I couldn't imagine life without it. I didn't at first, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to really use this. And it's become the point where I can't even imagine something without it because it just makes looking around so natural. My hands are still on the controls, but I can still see, I can still look around both sides, and that right there. And that's, I think, probably the biggest thing that helps with immersion, I think, with the sim, is when you can do things without using the mouse. Everything that uses the mouse and you have to put your hand on the sim in that sense, kind of takes away from from the sim, and it's a big distraction. So anything you can do to increase your avenues of interfacing with the sim, I think are a good thing. So TrackIR is great. FS2Crew is great for that. And FS2Crew, it does seem to be working a little better now that I sort of got everything sequenced properly. It does sort of know what I'm trying to do now. It seems like it's a little smarter, and it looks like a really nice model over here as we get a little closer to the terminal area. The runways are pretty plain and simple. Plain Jane overall, but this terminal area here seems like it's really well detailed. Somebody did a really nice job, and this is Freeware. Available on flightsim.to. Just search for Lethbridge CYQL and you will find this. I don't even know where to park. Somewhere over here. This looks like a kind of a terminal apron here. I don't think they have airline service, but this would be like where you would park if you were doing like a charter, which is probably what we're doing in our CRJ today. We'll park near the citation. We might flip around and park with the door facing the terminal just so it's a little smarter. Maybe they do actually have some airline service here, because there is a line here. I worry that we're a little close to that citation there, so kind of pounded the brakes really hard there. Yeah, I mean she's big for this airport. There's no doubt about that, but within reason, I think. All right, taxi light off. Let's just roll it up just a little closer to Lethbridge here. Trying to get rid of this and this. And myself just for a minute here, because I just want to just take a nice screenshot there of Lethbridge, because that's actually pretty nice. Alright, anyways, we're here. Alright, let's quickly run through the shutdown script here. When stopped at the gate or stand, the following flows are performed. The FOs is triggered when the engines are shut down. So thrust levers shut off. And they should be at idle for this. Wow, just look at these things. They're so noisy now. Did I start the APU? He did start the APU, yeah. And then this is not quite at idle, because if it was, then it would go. But if it's even just a little bit not at idle, if there's a little bit of reverse thrust, or it's not quite sitting at idle, it won't trigger. There we go. Alright, and then I do seatbelts off, anti-ice, all off. Packs are off. Fuel pumps off. Hydraulic 3A pump off, and beacon off. Nose wheel steering off, and we call for the parking checklist, or shutdown check.
Shocks and brakes.
On and in. On and in. In and on.
Seatbelt sign.
Off.
Anti-ice.
Off.
Packs.
Off. Set.
Fuel pumps.
Off.
Hydraulic pump 3A.
Off.
Beacon.
Off.
Nose wheel steering.
Off.
Transponder standby. Shutdown check complete.
All right. Woo! We made it. We made it. We managed to use FS2Crew. We managed to make it here without dying too badly here. She's a little bit big for this airport, but definitely we got it in here without breaking the thing. So that's a good sign, right? We got in here without breaking the thing. It's a nice looking airport, actually. This is a really nice looking model. Storage tie downs, Air West, like it's not a big airport. And that's the nice thing, is when you have a smaller airport, you can do a nice job with the model because there's not necessarily that many buildings. There's not going to be that many polygons. You know, you try and do this level of detail at somewhere like Calgary, where the airport spans across, 4 or 5 miles, and it takes up a lot more processor power. But a small airport like this, you can do some really great scenery without having to spend a whole lot of time on it, because the buildings are generally relatively small. I do like it. Travis thought for sure there was going to be a rage quit. I was this close, my friend. I was, where am I here at? I was this close. That close to rage quitting right at the beginning there. I was just about ready. I think if anything else had gone off, you would have seen a rage quit. I'm glad we got it done. That took a lot longer than I expected. That took at least an hour longer than I expected, because of, not what I meant to do there, sorry. took at least an hour longer than I expected with everything that was going on there. So, but thank you guys for those of you that did stick with me, and thank you Microsoft Flight Simulator for finally letting me finish this, and thank you to FS2Crew for finally releasing their CRJ product. Again, I think overall it's a pretty good product. I reserve my final judgment for a little longer. I want to use it a few more times. I want to get comfortable with it. FS2Crew is a product that gets better the more you use it, the more you become well versed in it, able to utilize it without looking constantly at the reference documents. So I think I do think in the end it's probably going to be worth it. Right now they're having a sale for their loyal customers. They're having a half-price sale on the Aerosoft CRJ as part of the release for FS2Crew. So head on over to the FS2Crew store if you're interested. I think in the end I'm probably going to say it's worth it. There are a few tweaks, a few glitches, but I think part of it is just I need to learn how this particular version of FS2Crew operates, and this is probably the least amount of practice I've had with an FS2Crew before going on stream. Normally I like to kind of practice things a little bit and use them a couple times. I used it once yesterday, and that was it, and it wasn't great. It sort of worked, it sort of didn't, but I still had those problems after takeoff. So I've got to practice this a little bit more, figure out how to get that after takeoff thing to function properly. But anyways, in the meantime, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate everybody who came and showed up and supported me and through my attempt to almost rage quit. Yeah, I hope you guys had fun. I enjoyed it, and I hope that you will. I hope that you'll follow the channel and join me a week today, next Thursday night at midnight Zulu. Thursday night, we're going to do a group flight. We're going to go from here, Lethbridge, so download the scenery from flightsim.to to Kelowna, and Kelowna to Vancouver. And I would like everyone to join me for this last leg of the Cross Canada tour, and let's have a fun little group flight going together here for this last leg. If not even this leg to Kelowna, join me definitely for Kelowna, Vancouver. The scenery is fantastic. It's tons of fun, and I will see you guys all then. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you guys all real soon.